That's right. It is time for another edition of The Voice of Wrestling right here on voiceofwrestling.com and, of course, WrestleZone.com. And I'm your host, Chris Cash, and I appreciate you checking us out and tuning in. We actually started on time. We don't know what to do with ourselves when that happens. So tonight's going to be a crazy, crazy ride. Hopefully everything will go according to plan, but I believe I do have my special co-host with me. Nick Paglino is there. Nick, what's up, man?
What's up, Chris? What's up, wrestling fans? I'm indeed special.
You are.
Aren't I?
There you are. Sorry.
Oh, there I am.
I didn't know. Yeah, I was worried that it wasn't going to work, so I had to make sure. Nevertheless, you're there. And by the way, if people are wondering, I'm sporting a sweet overcoat, but that's not really what I'm actually sporting. If you can't see underneath it, it's because I did that on purpose. However, do got to put over a sponsor, barbershopwindow.com. You can go there, use the discount code VOW, and get sweet shirts. Are you ready for this, Nick? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You can get #heel, baby, right there. So here's what happens.
Wow.
Yeah, so here's what happens.
And does it come with that microphone right in front of the shirt?
No, yeah.
There you go.
So no, you go. So like when you're walking down the road, you got the deal, and somebody pisses you off.
You should walk down the sidewalk.
Maybe not the road.
Safety.
But you're walking down the road, somebody pisses you off, you go off on them, just throw them one of those. That's all you got to do.
I love it.
Pretty cool.
So this is over at barbershopwindow.com.
You can get this shirt, absolutely. Barbershopwindow.com.
And can you get this with the 10% discount, or is that just for the on? So 10% discount if you use VOW.
Yeah, VOW discount code. You can get 10% off that one. They've got all kinds. I've got some other shirts, too, that they gave me. I'll be sporting a little bit. I think one of them is in I support indie wrestling. I had him send me that one. He sent several. Also, if you want to, you can't use the discount codes on these, but you can go to ProWrestlingTees.com, which is, of course, shirts designed and sold by pro wrestlers. And then you can also go to PodcastTees.com as well. And they've got exclusive Jim Ross things. I believe Barbershop, though, actually has an exclusive line of Andre the Giant shirts. And part of every sale goes to Andre the Giant's family. He's got exclusive rights to do that. So go check it out at barbershopwindow.com. If you want this shirt or others, use the hash or the promo. Don't use the hashtag. That won't do you any good. Use the promo code, the discount code VOW. But just as we always do, and thank you to Doug McDonald of WrestlingRumors.net. They just had a show right before us, but thank you very much for sending along what I believe is going to now be, Nick, the Hot Topics intro. How sweet is that?
We've got Hot Topics intro.
We've got a Hot Topics intro. Are you ready to hear it?
Wow. I've been writing music for the past week and a half.
Check this out.
And I guess
now, you know what I don't know if I can do? I don't think
we do not have it.
I'm not. Well, no, we've got it, but I'm not sure I can actually fade it out on this thing.
We have it, but no one can actually listen to it.
No, check this out.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
No, it didn't. Wait, I think it was working. I think it was working. Let me double check and make sure it's working. Here, I believe this is it.
I'm hearing.
Here we go. Oh, no, let's not do that.
That's seriously, those are hard topics, not hot topics.
That was horrible. All right, so I've got to admit, though, he did an excellent job, and I've been wanting to get it going.
That wasn't it, or it was?
Well, but it started doing some sort of crazy looping, so I can't do it.
Oh, insane. Okay.
Technology. You almost had it right. You almost had it perfect.
That's actually going to be a on somebody else's show about us getting this Hot Topic music.
Yeah, probably.
But not being able to use it
Not
yet.
being able to use it. I don't know what to... I don't know how to...
So we'll debut it in the coming weeks.
Right. Well, see,
this is something
I could let people hear it, but I don't think that you and I could hear it, and that's the problem. So Well, but nevertheless, we do have still plenty of hot topics to actually discuss. We'll start it off with a newspaper ad confirmed that Scott Hall will be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. He will most likely round out the list. So, Nick, what are your thoughts regarding the 2014 class of inductees?
I think they're all great choices. Typically with the WWE Hall of Fame, when you see some of the choices, there are political reasons as to why these guys are going in, as opposed to actual reasons why they belong in. One example this year would probably be Carlos Colon, who's somebody who hasn't really been, very publicly advertised as sort of a Hall of Fame headliner. Now, this is a guy that I do believe deserves an induction, but he's being inducted for other reasons than that. WWE is looking to purchase the World Wrestling Council's tape library from Puerto Rico, and one of the parts of the deal that they had offered, that they had put on the table, was, WWE had to induct Carlos Colon into the Hall of Fame this year, and then they would go ahead and sell either what would be a portion of this tape library or the whole thing. I'm not sure. So again, there's a political reason there, because they have business that they want to do down there. They're going to go ahead and induct Carlos Colon, whereas they probably wouldn't have done that this year had that not been on the table. But with the exception of him, I think it's a great class. I think you have guys that are all very deserving. Guys like the Ultimate Warrior and Jake the Snake, they should have been in the Hall of Fame years ago. Lita is obviously a perfect representation of the diva that should be going into the Hall of Fame. And I think a lot of people have been arguing a little bit over, whether it should have been Kevin Nash first or Scott Hall. Scott Hall is the feel-good story right now. Scott Hall has overcome a lot. He's come back from addiction. He looks great. By all accounts, at this point, he's really turned things around for himself. So I think him, along with Jake the Snake, who has done the same thing and is going into the Hall of Fame this year, I think it makes sense for WWE to induct Scott Hall. And again, it's not just because he's turned his life around. I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame regardless. But they can also add his accomplishments personally, what he's overcome in the past few years, sort of turned himself around. And if DDP comes in to induct these guys, I think it's a good feel. It's not just a feel-good story, but it's an important story that they can help get out there, that DDP will help get out there. So all in all, I think this is a great class of inductees this year. They're all very deserving.
And speaking of another inductee, the Ultimate Warrior will be inducted, but that's not all, potentially. It's, according to a recent report, it's being said that Warrior is open to the idea of wrestling a match at WrestleMania 30. Of course, this would be in addition to his induction, but there's that off chance WWE could use him on the pay-per-view in a match. And Nick, I mean, are you anxious? Are you anxious in case, if it actually happened, to see Warrior shake those ropes again? I am.
Yeah, I would.
I would be.
Yeah, of course. You always want to know what kind of shape these guys are in. And, I think from what we've seen out of now, Warrior himself said in an interview, he'd be open to a match, but he definitely can't go the way he used to go, and that makes sense. But anybody that's seen Warrior recently, the guy looks like he's in great shape still. He's obviously kept himself up. And if you can have a guy like Jake the Snake, Jake the Snake just wrestled over the weekend, and this guy is undergoing cancer treatment right now. It's pretty remarkable. If a guy like that can get in the ring and go, I don't really see why the Ultimate Warrior couldn't have a match, or at the very least, maybe be showcased a little bit in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. The question, though, Chris, becomes, who do you put him in a match with? You really can't. I guess the Ryback thing was talked about before, and Ryback is, that guy's done. As far as his chances of ever being a main event guy are concerned, again, I think that's over. Would you pair up Ultimate Warrior with a guy like Ryback? I mean, does that make sense? You'd probably end up, it would probably make Ryback look really bad if he lost to a guy like Warrior. But does it matter at this point for a guy like Ryback?
No, I don't think so. I think that would be. I don't like that matchup just because Well, I guess it would be fine. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I don't think, I think if you go with Warrior in the ring, it's got to be in something like the Battle Royal, just a quick spot, that he doesn't have to win either, just to kind of get the pop and get him out there. Or it needs to be with somebody that he can actually kind of throw around a little bit. Somebody that's a heel, but somebody that's good. Ryback is one of those that's not going to make Warrior look very good. But I could see a guy like, Jack Swagger making him look pretty good, taking the bumps, things like that. To me, it's got to be somebody that can get in there and really make him look good. So to me, I'm interested. I was always a huge Warrior fan, massive, massive Warrior fan. So I'd love to see it if he's able to get in there and be remotely what we remember. Which again, in a match that protects him, it won't be that big of a deal. But I really don't expect it to happen. I think he'll go with the induction. He doesn't even look like the Warrior of old anymore. So to me, with the short hair and stuff like that, just doesn't really, it's not what we remember. So I don't really necessarily expect him, again, to go anywhere. But nevertheless, moving on in the Hot Topics, Nick, there was a rumor that JBL was the popular Twitter account called Cranky Vince, and I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts, because to me this is not a big story, but this has been an ongoing Twitter account that you can tell that somebody that either works for WWE or has worked for WWE. There's been obviously rumors that it's 2 or 3 or 4 different people. It would not surprise me if this kind of came out of that class. There was several guys, Andrew Goldstein, I believe, and some creative writers and stuff that were all kind of released, it seemed like, around the same time, within 6 months to a year. Would not surprise me if those guys were behind it. But the fact that JBL, where did the rumor even come from that he was involved at all? Do we know? Like, he tweeted something that was then tweeted by the Cranky Vince thing, like right back to back or something. Is that kind of where the rumor began?
Yeah, I think it was just similarities between either two tweets that were similar, or JBL, he either said something or tweeted something. Then like you said again, that the Cranky Vince account retweeted it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And I think we just lost Nick. I think he went frozen on me, which is always cool. I don't know what happened to him. I'm going to work on getting him back, though. And here's the thing. I mean, regardless of what it is, this is one of those things that what bugs me the most about this, and again, this is not much of a story, but what bugs me the most about the Cranky Vince and stuff like that, it's because when you get into when you're doing those insider, or anybody for that matter, websites like WrestleZone, things like that, when you're...
The person whom you're trying...
Skype voicemail. When you are trying to report on or talk about or criticize the business, everything is linked together. Being a guy that writes for WrestleZone, that does this show, I've dealt with it for over a decade now. And so for me, Nick's restarting his router, by the way. Just got a text, but he will be back on in just a second. Must have messed up with his internet. Being a guy that's been in this for a decade or longer, here's the thing. Guys like Cranky Vince, and it's all grouped into the same thing. So WrestleZone, all the dirt sheets, a guy like me, a guy like Nick, your Meltzers, whoever you want, we're all grouped in just this horrible group, stereotypical type of fan that the wrestling business and those in it just look down upon. I mean, there's just this black cloud over all of our heads. And so when an account like Cranky Vince is also involved, and again, it's more of just a social media presence, but it's still very, very popular, I look out for those things. Those things affect me and my relationship with the wrestling business. And so I'm always interested to who it is behind those accounts, and you go also off to the anonymous emails that a guy like Dave Scherer from PW Insider will get, or whoever it is. There's been anonymous wrestlers under under these fake accounts that are sending in these emails and stuff like that. I always find that to be very interesting. But again, for me, being a part of this, being a part of the wrestling business and the dirt sheet crowd, a guy like Cranky Vince or whoever it is that's behind him, it affects all of us in a lot of ways. And obviously it's more negative than it is positive. And so it's always interesting to see. Nevertheless, moving on in the hot topics of the week, there have been talks that TNA is looking to return to New York in the coming months for a series of tapings. Originally, it was reported that TNA wanted to book the Hammerstein Ballroom, but plans may have changed as now it's being said they might book the Grand Ballroom section of the Manhattan Center instead. Nick, I believe we've got you back.
I am back.
Good. A lot of people are going to be critical of TNA with this, just to be critical. But I really do not see the problem with this whole thing, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. I really don't see either venue, the Hammerstein or the Grand Ballroom, being an issue or a negative thing for TNA. And it still baffles me, these fans that claim they want the business to succeed, just the pro wrestling business in general, finding a way to be critical of TNA for going and booking a New York venue, which I believe they would sell out if they wanted to. I believe if they go there, they'll sell it out, either venue, or be very, very close. It'll be respectable one way or the other. But a lot of people being critical. What are your thoughts of TNA's going to New York again and maybe one of those two venues?
Well, it's New York,
sure.
So that makes it more acceptable, I think. I understand I guess a portion of it, that, and again, this isn't, because I understand what you're saying, which is, you're looking for that reason to bash TNA. Mm-hmm. It would be like if didn't WWE do One Night Stand at the Hammerstein Ballroom?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a pay-per-view there. It has nostalgia attached to it. It is a legendary wrestling arena. WWE used to tape Raw there. Now, people who want to bash TNA are going to look at it from the standpoint of, well, if you've ever seen a show there, I mean, it's like it has that bingo hall vibe to it, and people are going to say, well, by now TNA should be selling out arenas. Mm-hmm. They should be, WWE's not going to go to the Hammerstein Ballroom because, they're selling out 15 to 20,000 seat arenas, okay. You can look at it like that if you want to, or you can say, this is the Hammerstein Ballroom. It is a legendary wrestling venue. There are going to be rabid TNA fans that go to this event. It's going to look great on television because, the arena is going to be explosive. The fans in New York City are rabid to begin with, let alone at the Hammerstein Ballroom, because there's Did
we lose them again, really? They're trying to get him back on. It's New York. I just want you to know, what's aggravating about it is that we've actually, like on my end, things are running smooth. At least I think so. So let me know if I'm wrong. By the way, you can tweet me as well at Reality of Chris on Twitter. I am paying attention to that. And during the show, make sure you use the hashtag VOW Live on Twitter, hashtag VOW Live, and I think if you're in the live listening center, that hashtag, if you use it, gets brought up in there. It's kind of an interactive feature that we'll set up. I thought it was pretty cool. But I also am on Twitter as well, so you can tweet me at Reality of Chris. Thanks to Jonathan Hoyt. Quick shout out. The best pre-show before Raw with myself and Nick. Really appreciate it, Jonathan. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We're back every single week now. Nick might not obviously be back. We're not positive yet whether or not he's actually going to be involved or not. But I'm with him on the TNA thing. People just being critical to be critical. I have no idea why. I even saw Justin and those guys, and of course the whole segment was supposed to be funny. So I get it. But for me, it seems like that's just the easy thing to do these days, is to bash on TNA, and I really, really don't get it. Finally, in the hot topics, I wanted to talk about the WrestleMania pre-show being announced that it's going to be 2 hours long. The kickoff show will be separated into 2 separate 1-hour blocks, with the first being streamed exclusively on all the different locations you can go to find it. WWE.com, the WWE app, of course, YouTube, etc. The stuff that we're used to. And then the second hour is going to be exclusive on the WWE Network. Now, again, very, very critical, or at least some people are being very critical of this decision. 6 hours in their minds is just way too much pro wrestling. And generally, on any other day, I would absolutely agree. Not this day. Not this Sunday. Not this Sunday, but not that Sunday. Not WrestleMania Sunday. To me, what's the difference? They do the same thing for the Super Bowl. It's an absolute exact same thing that for me, if most people, if you're not going to the event live, and of course that's a huge deal to people as well, but if you're not going to the event live, then it's a situation where I believe you're still like gearing up for it. That day, there is nothing else on your mind. You may have some buddies coming over to your show or to your house. You may be going to your buddy's house, but 3 or 4 you're going to get together. You're going to party all night long, and you're going to watch it. And if there's a 2-hour pre-show to be watched, you're going to watch that. So me personally, I have absolutely no problem with the fact that there's going to be 6 hours of pro wrestling. Now, when you couple that with the fact that just every single week we've got so much pro wrestling to digest, I can understand why just the thought of 6 hours in one setting, you're going to be maybe a little bit burnt out towards the tail end of it. But of course, that then it's the main events, which is what you're waiting for. But for me, I really do not have any problem with the idea of a 2-hour pre-show. Nick, I believe we've got you back. You probably caught the tail end of that.
I did.
2-hour pre-show, a lot of people, again, saying way too much wrestling. But for me, on that Sunday, on WrestleMania Sunday, I don't see an issue with it again. I really don't. I think it's fine.
Well, you got to remember, first of all, it's not going to be 2 hours of wrestling. You know, it's the first 2 hours is going to have one match. You know, that first hour is literally just going to be to get people to promote signing up for the WWE Network, so you can watch that actual pre-show that's going to happen from 6 to 7 Eastern before WrestleMania starts. And it's going to get people to sign up for the network to buy WrestleMania. You know, so you're probably going to be introduced to the panel, whoever the legends are, and Renee Young. And they'll probably be hyping, you know, rolling video packages to hype the main events later throughout the night, hype the entire card. But you're not going to get any wrestling on that first hour. And then that second hour will give you the one traditional pre-show match. So in those first 2 hours, you're pretty much only going to get 1 hour. You know, and I, like a bunch of people, will probably be, you know, watching that first hour with kind of one ear open, the other ear gearing up for the pay-per-view. You know, if I have friends come over to watch it, I'll probably be yapping back and forth with them. You're probably not even going to pay too much of attention to that first hour, since it's really just going to be geared toward getting people to sign up for the network in that final hour if they haven't yet, and then watch that pre-show on the network. So again, I don't think people are going to be too bothered with that. I think by the time WrestleMania starts at 7 o'clock, you're going to be ready for some wrestling because you're probably only going to have seen one match.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, and I think I'm looking forward to it. Really am. I think it's going to be very neat to see. And you got to think too, just NXT by itself was actually really, really well done. I mean, I enjoyed the pre-show to that when I was watching on the network. So I had no problem with it. Moving on, though, do want to kind of break down WrestleMania 30. We know a little bit more than we knew 2 weeks ago. Thanks to Dave Hero, by the way, guys. The archive is up on voiceofwrestling.com. If you didn't get to check it out last week, Dave Hero and I talked and ran down the hot topics in pro wrestling. But some things have obviously changed, Nick, in that we know a little bit more about the Battle Royal and the participants that's going to be in that. But it's kind of looking at WrestleMania 30 as it's shaped up in the past couple of weeks since you and I got to discuss it. What's your thoughts? Because now we know, as far as the changes that maybe have been here since you were on a couple of weeks ago, we know more names in the Battle Royal. We realize that actually it's going to have some pretty decent names in it. We know Bray Wyatt and we know John Cena. We know the Shield and versus, I believe, Kane and the New Age Outlaws now, where it was first rumored, if I'm not mistaken, the Ascension potentially. And of course, we assumed the New Age Outlaws were going to be involved in the tag team title match. And we'll talk about that. And of course, then we know the main events with Lesnar, Taker, Triple H, Daniel Bryan, and then obviously the triple threat main event with either Daniel Bryan or Triple H, and of course Orton and Batista. So let's start first and foremost with the Shield versus Kane and the New Age Outlaws, Nick. I mean, did you mind the Outlaws being put in there? Again, I was watching Chairshot Reality this week. I know Justin had a big issue with it being the Outlaws as opposed to a new up-and-coming tag team like the Ascension, but I tend to disagree with that. I think on WrestleMania 30, maybe they're in the Battle Royal, introduce them that way, but to me, nobody, again, a lot of people probably watched NXT compared to who normally watches. A lot more people probably watched, but I don't think the Ascension, anybody's going to care enough, They'd be watching that match for the Shield and Kane. The Ascension are still nobody to the mainstream WWE audience. So I didn't mind that replacement.
Yeah, you don't debut the Ascension in a tag team title match at WrestleMania. If you want to involve them, you could do that. And they would have had to have done that. They would have had to have done that a couple weeks ago.
I don't think they were wanting to involve them in the title match. I think they wanted the Ascension with Kane against the Shield.
So it would have been. You mean it would have been again? Yeah. So it would have been the Ascension and Kane versus the Shield. Well, here's the thing. Again, and this is what I was going to say about even pairing up Kane with the Outlaws and them taking on the Shield. I still can't help but feel like it's a step down from what we saw the Shield do a month ago.
Right.
When you had this explosive, what do you call it? A powder keg of a combination with the Wyatts and the Shield. And that just had big fight feel all over it. And the crowd was eating it up. And it was just those two groups stepping into the ring together was, the crowd was going wild. It feels like, and again, this isn't the fault of the Outlaws or Kane or the Ascension, but it's just kind of like anything from there is a step down now at WrestleMania. That probably should have been the WrestleMania match, but at the same time, I like the direction of Bray Wyatt and John Cena. It does give Bray Wyatt that push. But again, I think the argument could be made, and the same argument is being made with a guy like Roman Reigns. Look at the Shield right now; they're being, they've almost turned babyface now, and we reported on WrestleZone the reason why is because they're trying to get the Shield over more as babyfaces so that Roman Reigns can then be pushed as the top babyface when he separates from the Shield. And again, it feels rushed to me. We talked about this before when we talk about the Shield breaking up, the Wyatt family breaking up. These guys have a lot of mileage left in them as groups. I think Shield, Wyatts, at WrestleMania, that was the way to go this year, But all right, since that's not happening, Kane and the Outlaws, it's probably the best you can do. But I think everybody knows my feeling about Kane. He doesn't really bring anything relevant to the table anymore. The problem with the Outlaws is you've got these three young guys with the Shield. You've got Roman Reigns, who's an absolute beast. I don't know how believable it is going to be for me to see the Outlaws take on the Shield, depending on how the match is booked. Kane's a big guy. Obviously, Kane can hang with those guys. It being a six-man tag may even the odds a little bit. But I guess the question becomes, where do they go with it? What happens? Is WrestleMania when the Shield breaks down and they separate. I don't know. But I just can't help but feel like I think if anyone has this underwhelming sense with that match right now, I think it's because it's just a really tough act to follow, having just seen the Wyatts versus the Shield.
Don't forget you are tuned in to the Voice of Wrestling, Chris Cash, Nick Paglino, every week here at 6:30 Eastern on voiceofwrestling.com and, of course, WrestleZone.com. We're brought to you by BarbershopWindow.com. Check them out and use the discount code VOW for 10% off. Nick, the other thing is the Battle Royal. We know several names now that's going to be involved in this Battle Royal. I'm actually looking forward to kind of what this is going to be and how serious WWE is going to take it. Personally, I look at this Battle Royal as a really good opportunity for them to kind of, I don't know, utilize it for an up-and-coming guy. Now, you've got the Royal Rumble that's generally booked for already main eventer or pretty much on the brink of main eventers. You've got the Money in the Bank. If they're still going to be doing two of those, which I would imagine now you're looking at probably just one for the title. So that's going to become a pretty big deal as well. But because they have the full year, if they wanted it, to build whatever that star is, I kind of look at the Rumble as your top 6 guys probably have a chance. Whereas the Money in the Bank, you kind of open that up to where there could be 15 guys that could technically win it going into it every year. Then you have these gimmick matches kind of like this, and this Battle Royal, which really means nothing in the grand scheme of things. From what we know about it right now, it's useless. It's really just a useless match. But there's a lot of big names in it, Nick. So does the fact that guys like Sheamus and Christian and some of these bigger names are involved, Big E Langston, which I think a lot of people were surprised he's even in it, but when you look at what they've done with the U.S. title, when you look at what they've done with the Intercontinental Championship, I really don't know why anybody's ever surprised anymore that they do not do anything still. That's just, to me, it's really surprising to me. But when you look at some of the names in this Battle Royal, Nick, are you semi-excited about what WWE might have for this match? In my mind, you could be looking at it as odds, just a way to throw in all the mid-carders, but you could also look at it as who wins this thing might actually have something that they can then take and use at least in the first couple of months or so after WrestleMania. And if it works and it sticks, that's great. And if it doesn't, they still had a good chance to try.
Absolutely. And Chris, they can do both of the things that you mentioned in this match. It is a way to feature all those mid-card guys. It is a way to get the Kofi Kingstons and the Jack Swaggers featured on WrestleMania. But at the same time, they can also take it very seriously, and they can have that guy who is, the Money in the Bank ladder match used to be a WrestleMania exclusive, and then you see where it became. So the Andre the Giant Battle Royal can be something now that's, we see it every year at WrestleMania. And, I've never liked in pro wrestling the idea of a trophy, or didn't TNA used to do a gimmick where it was like the $100,000 if you won the match, it was like a tournament or something like that, and whoever won a prize of $100,000. That doesn't mean anything to the audience because A, we know the guy isn't really going to win, right? And B, well, what difference does it make? So what? All right, he gets a trophy. Great. Now WWE has two ways of going with this. Either they're going to go some ridiculous comedy route, and have someone, I'm not saying Santino Marella is going to win, but a guy like him winning, and then he's got the Andre the Giant trophy, and he carries it around, and he makes a joke out of the trophy, and blah, blah, blah. They could go that route, which, I would not put it past them. Or they could really use this as a great battle royal. And remember, this is not the Royal Rumble. This is not 2 guys start and guys come in. This will be 30 guys starting in the ring, and they will then be eliminated. Yep. So this will be a much shorter match, as it should be. But at the same time, WWE does have the opportunity to establish it this year as something that is an entertaining match that people want to see, that gives serious results to the winner. And then maybe in the years coming, you can add a prize where, in addition to having that trophy and being the Andre the Giant trophy winner, maybe they'll come up with another prize that can play out in storylines, where maybe that person is automatically entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match. Then whoever wins that is automatically entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And maybe, the idea, because it's you bring up a great point. There's not two ladder matches anymore. There's one ladder match now at Money in the Bank for the title, unless they want to come up with a Money in the Bank contract for another title, like the IC title or something. But for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, you have this one match. So, it's traditionally 6 guys in the match. Well, maybe whoever wins the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, will be the, 5 guys enter and he gets a 10-minute head start or a 5-minute head start or something. I mean, that doesn't really work logically because the match could end in 1 minute. But they could come up with something, where there are match consequences, just like the winner of the Royal Rumble headlines WrestleMania. The winner of Money in the Bank gets a guaranteed title shot, So I really hope WWE, I think it's a great idea. I love the fact that it's the who symbolizes a big match better than Andre the Giant. When I say big, I mean the sheer number of people that are in this match, 30 men, Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania. It's a great idea. I really hope WWE takes it seriously, but, there's 60% of me right now that says they won't.
By the way, also, we know Undertaker, of course, and the Brock Lesnar match, which, Nick, I think you and I both are still just kind of in agreement for the most part on that. I think people will enjoy it at the end of Mania like they do every WrestleMania, every Undertaker match. We knew this was coming for a while. I don't know why so many people, just maybe because of the predictability of it, in their mind, this is one of the first years where there's no chance Brock Lesnar is going to win, which I say that's every single year. Nobody has really thought in the past 5 or 6 years in my mind that they were going to that Taker was going to lose. I don't really see anybody. Maybe if it was Cena at this point, they could say that. Maybe some people would believe Cena. But if you believed that Triple H either year or Punk or Shawn Michaels either year, I mean, there you go. You've got 6 years right there, Nick, that I never saw Taker losing then either. It's not about whether Taker's going to win or lose. It's just the match. It's just the whole mystique about it. It's just everything about the thing. And, of course, this is going to be as good of a year as any. Now, to me, Brock hasn't been the Brock of old. His match with Triple H was phenomenal. Both of them I really kind of got some good enjoyment out of. Had a really good match with John Cena. So to me, there's no question this is going to be a very, very good match. We still have 2 more Raws, including tonight, to sell that. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I know you and I kind of both are in agreement. The other thing that I really wanted to talk about, though, was Triple H. Justin LaBar had a really decent column on Trip Live, I believe, and I thought it was well as far as Triple H, maybe a little bit too direct in some of the messages he was trying to get across. But for me, I 100% am looking forward to Triple H back in the ring, Nick. I think that he's a guy that without a question can do really, really well. And I'm kind of interested to see what he does. I like him I like the fact that he's going to be getting back into the ring. I think he's going to put on a good showing as well, because that's kind of how he is. But I do like the fact that Triple H is going to be there. I'm kind of curious, Nick, to your thoughts regarding Triple H and obviously his involvement now at WrestleMania. As far as Raw goes, I have to say this much: him and Stephanie McMahon sold that thing to me, man. They absolutely sold it to me. I thought it was phenomenal, and I'm actually excited to see Triple H.
It was the angle was great. It was great, and Triple H is the master of stuff like that. I love Triple H. I've always been a big Triple H fan. I reserved judgment in all of this. Again, we talked about this before, back when all the WrestleMania hoopla was happening and there was the outrage over Daniel Bryan. What did I say? Did I say Royal Rumble?
I don't know.
I meant to say Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Back when the Royal Rumble happened and there was all the outrage that Daniel Bryan didn't win or he wasn't inserted in the match, I reserved judgment. I said, we got to wait until we see this thing play out at WrestleMania. And I was thinking about this off the air a little earlier today, Chris, and I think we still have to wait even during WrestleMania. There is a chance that Daniel Bryan could lose against Triple H. Absolutely, but still be in the main event and still win the title. So we really have to reserve our judgment here until WrestleMania is
well, and let me
over.
also say this. There's a point to be made that's exactly what they should do. Nick, you and I have had
I agree.
You and I have had these conversations. We had it with Kevin Kelly. What happens with Daniel Bryan once that chase is over? Once he's finally there, then all this hoopla, it's kind of gone away. I mean, now WWE gave you what you wanted, so you really can't. But it depends on how far they really feel like they can drag it out. Because if they give it to you at WrestleMania, now he's on top. He's no longer chasing. It's no longer the machine that's holding him down. So to me, I really, really do believe WWE has a decision to make, because if Daniel Bryan loses in the main event or whatever, let's say a guy like Batista, that makes Batista an uber heel, like crazy over, more over than he's ever been. And now it's appropriate because he's no longer a babyface. Now, any reaction that they give him, and that to me, then that's perfect. That's perfect for Batista. Daniel Bryan can keep going. They're going to even be more rowdy. And of course, now it's turned into, we're the brilliant WWE, because this thing is feeling and acting and everything is like a shoot. Now, everything they do is all leading to Daniel Bryan as champion, but when they want to pull the trigger on that is really ultimately up to them. Now, you give them credit, Nick, after Rumble happened, and that they maybe had this in their mind and their game plan. I don't think he was anywhere near the game plan. I think Triple H and Daniel Bryan was the plan for months. But I do think that now you still have to wait, because WWE could easily decide not to go with Daniel Bryan, especially now that they've got the out. He's going to have such a physical, brutal match with Triple H. So to the casual fans, it makes sense that he would then lose the main event triple threat. And they could just drag it out even further. So it's going to be very interesting. I want to take a quick phone call, though, guys, and we will open the phone lines up, but we got a special guest right now. WrestleZone.com's own Mike Killam joins us. Mike, what's going on, man?
I really like Nick's kitchen. I like that you have a very professional studio set up, and Nick's kind of just chilling out in his kitchen.
Yeah, I don't know if Mike was listening when we did the show a couple weeks ago, but this is actually not a kitchen. This is a green screen background. I'm actually in a professional studio right outside where ESPN does all their broadcasts, and this is a professional green screen behind me that is showing what looks like a small New York kitchen.
But it's
I just think it's a more intimate feel to the show.
Not.
That is impressive.
You can't eat any of this stuff. You can't. This refrigerator does not open up. It's not even plugged in. There's nothing in that crock pot back there. I have a crock pot back there. There's an actual crock.
There's a crock pot.
That takes what Chris is doing and just blows it out of the water.
So, Mike, what's on your mind, man?
Well, thanks a lot for calling, Mike.
I tried calling in when you guys were talking about the Battle Royal, and then I sat on hold for 5 minutes. But so I don't know where you are in the conversation, but you were talking about like possible stipulations to add to the Battle Royal, and I thought it'd be really cool to put up like whether or not it's a U.S. title match, just like any mid-card title match, because you've got those two titles that don't really mean much. Rollins or what's his face? Ambrose hasn't done anything with his in like 3 months, and who's holding the other one? Big E.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if you just, gave the winner. There's not going to be any huge main event match people in that match. I think Sheamus is the most well-known person that's going to be in that match. I think it'd be a cool way to set up maybe Ambrose versus Reigns later in the night. Maybe have Reigns win the Battle Royal. The winner gets a shot at a title match later in the night, and he goes over Dean Ambrose, and it sets up the split.
But you're thinking that the Shield will be in the Battle Royal then?
I mean, I'm not saying I don't even think the idea is going to happen. I'm just pitching random creative ideas, since that's what we were doing.
Is that what we were doing?
I think that would have been better than a trophy, because like Nick said, trophies don't mean anything.
No, and I think that if they've already gone the trophy route now, so they've already announced the trophy. They really can't go away from that, but they could certainly downplay the trophy and then eventually put over a bigger prize, but I really don't know that they will, and if they don't, then the only way I see the person winning this benefiting is by if it's a heel, and then you can actually bring the trophy out, again, a la Owen Hart, and use it in an obnoxious fashion. Then I could see it maybe working.
Maybe you can use it to like break Hulk Hogan's back or something.
He could
break it in half over Hulk Hogan's like injured.
Too.
Yeah, that's probably, because Michael Cole did mention on, I think when the Battle Royal was announced, maybe it was the week after that, he mentioned that whoever wins it, will have the trophy and will carry it with them throughout the next year. So obviously if a heel wins it, he's going to do something really obnoxious with it, and he's going to come out and cut a promo saying that he's better than Andre the Giant and blah, blah, blah. And look, that could be fine. That could work. I'm willing to give this first Battle Royal a test shot, see how it goes, but I think if they really want this to mean anything in the years coming, if this is something that they plan to do annually, then they're really going to have to kind of sweeten the deal in terms of whatever the winner gets.
I think it's going to be more of like a one-off, and I'll get going soon. I don't want to hijack your show or anything, but even though that's the trendy thing to do now is to hijack high-quality products, but I think this is more or less of a throwback, because I'm going through old WWE pay-per-views, and I remembered that at WrestleMania 2 they had a 30-man Battle Royal that Andre actually won. So I think this is more or less a throwback to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal that he won at WrestleMania 2, and not like a thing they're doing every year.
And I appreciate the phone call, man. Thanks for calling in, guys. He's doing Mike is actually doing, if I'm not mistaken, he's doing a podcast now as well on WrestleZone. Is that like a consistent thing? Do we know? Oh, did he already hang up?
Did.
Yeah, I don't know. He's doing a podcast now. Check that out, obviously. And of course, news reporting, and he does his editorials as well on WrestleZone.com. Thanks for calling in. I really don't. I never looked at this either as an annual thing. I mean, it's possible, Nick, that they may go an annual route with this, but to me, I think that's going to cloud a lot of stuff. I mean, at some point, I wouldn't be surprised if Money in the Bank returned. Maybe more of on a mid-card level, though, with the U.S. or the Intercontinental, and not really involved with the WWE Heavyweight Championship. I wouldn't really be surprised if it eventually returned to WrestleMania. I don't think they want to commit to this type of match every single year at WrestleMania. I mean, 30 guys, that's a lot of people, and I think it's kind of a judgment call every single year. So I think that's why they haven't obviously made up their mind. Otherwise, they would probably be calling this the first annual. I think they're probably just going to leave it open, see how it goes, and see how it does benefit the person that wins it. If it's not somebody that's more of a nostalgic type of personality that wins it, I won't be surprised if this is the only year we see it. But nevertheless, I'm looking forward to kind of where they decide to go with it. I think it's going to be pretty interesting nonetheless. Guys, we will open up the phone lines to 323-353-50. That's 323-353-50 to call into the show before we get out of here. Nick, you were saying?
And just kind of to now get back to what we were talking about before, because I wanted to ask you this, because this is something I was thinking about today. I think is worth talking about. Mark Madden had wrote a column over the weekend suggesting that WrestleMania is not the time and place where you develop storylines or you continue storylines. It's where you end storylines, and I think there is a specific. There is a percentage of people out there, I don't know what it is, that feel, WrestleMania has to end with, all right, in this case, this year, it's Daniel Bryan winning the title, 75,000 doing a yes chant. He is the champion. That's the way WrestleMania has to end, because that's what WrestleMania is. WrestleMania gives you that payoff. It doesn't keep you hanging until the next pay-per-view. Sure. And so I guess my question is that true? Is that the way this has to go down? Because a lot of people are talking about the potential of Daniel Bryan losing to Triple H, all right? So Triple H screws him somehow. Maybe Kane gets involved in the match and screws Daniel Bryan. Triple H wins, and all of a sudden Vince McMahon comes out. And Vince McMahon says, you've been abusing your authority, blah, blah, blah. I'm now making this a fatal four-way match for the title, and now it's all four guys. Vince McMahon is in Daniel Bryan's corner, and at the end of the main event match, Vince screws Daniel Bryan, and all the McMahons are together, and Batista holds the belt up in the air. Is that how can WrestleMania end like that?
I think so.
Or does it have to end with Daniel Bryan holding up the title?
No, I think that it will end with Daniel Bryan holding up the title, because that is what they generally do. But no, the idea that WrestleMania ends everything is stupid to me. It doesn't have to, even though that is normally how it plays out. That it doesn't have to be. As a matter of fact, this year, as a guy that can look, can kind of look at things objectively and kind of sees a bigger picture, I think, at least I try to do that, and I give myself credit for it. And there's others that are reasonable wrestling fans that can do it as well. A guy like Batista, you've got to think long term, and for me, the business as a whole needs as many uplifting things as they can have, as many reasons to talk or care. And for the past several months since the Rumble, mostly it really kicked into high gear, we've had a reason to care, Nick, and that's because we felt like Daniel Bryan was being done wrong. Once he's done right, is Daniel Bryan going to be the headliner that we hope he could be, or think maybe that he can be? I'm not 100% convinced that he is. So for me, it really is interesting, the options that they have for WrestleMania. And here's what I want to do. We've talked WrestleMania, Nick. I really want to kind of look beyond WrestleMania before we close tonight. And I want to ask you a couple of things. We'll kind of rapid fire. And since we're talking about Daniel Bryan right now, I want to know your first and foremost, buy or sell. Do you buy or do you sell the idea? There was a report that came out that post-WrestleMania, John Cena and Daniel Bryan will be the two top stars of the WWE. Do you buy that?
I buy that.
You do buy it.
I buy that. I buy the fact that WWE will push them as the top two guys. John Cena is not going anywhere. Daniel Bryan right now is the hot commodity. I do believe those two guys will be pushed as your two focal points in WWE. Does that necessarily mean Daniel Bryan's going to have the title? Not necessarily. John Cena's number one, whether he has the title or not. And that's always the way that's going to be. And so I believe that regardless of the outcome of WrestleMania, John Cena and Daniel Bryan will be number 1 and 2 respectively, at least taking us through the spring months and into the summer months. Will it be like that when we get to SummerSlam in August? I'm not sure.
Stay together or not, the Shield after WrestleMania, beyond WrestleMania, stay together or not, the Shield.
I think WWE unfortunately is going to pull the trigger on the split probably at WrestleMania. I think they're in a real hurry to get Roman Reigns over as another top guy, especially in light of Batista's failure as a babyface. So I think the split happens at WrestleMania. I think they push Roman Reigns as best they can as a babyface, and I'm very on the fence as to whether or not that's going to work. I don't think the Shield needs to break up yet, but, the fans do seem to be really taking a liking to Roman Reigns. They're reacting very well to him. He is sort of is on his way there to being that babyface guy. I think the question is, will WrestleMania be too early for WWE to pull that trigger? I think they're going to do it.
True or false, Brock Lesnar is fighting for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship between now, after WrestleMania, but between WrestleMania and SummerSlam, or by SummerSlam, we'll say. Brock Lesnar. Keep in mind, we still have some time with that guy, too. Post-WrestleMania. And this will be coming off of a loss. So
that's true.
Which,
that's true.
So many people are worried about protecting Brock Lesnar in these big pay-per-view matches because that's all we see in him. So he comes off of a loss at WrestleMania. He was rumored to be in the main event as well, but they've put that on hold because of everything going on. So
I'm going to say false because, if he comes off of that, the way his pattern has been is he wins, he loses, he wins, he loses, or he started by losing, right. Then he wins, then he loses, then he wins, then he loses. He he disappears. And I do not see him, nor have there been any reports or anything suggesting that he's going to come back on any kind of full-time basis. Mm-hmm. You might see him do a match at Extreme Rules, but then he's probably going to be gone until SummerSlam. I just don't think you can put the title on a guy who's not going to be around. And so because people know that, do you put him in a title match? Do you put him against a Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam? Because because remember, all right, let's say this: if he comes off of the loss at WrestleMania, what's his next match? Now, if it's at Extreme Rules, and let's say Daniel Bryan wins the title at Mania, is it Daniel Bryan Lesnar? Lesnar's not going to win. Does he lose 2 matches? Does he lose to Undertaker at WrestleMania, then disappear for a while, come back to headline SummerSlam for the title and lose again?
I think he's got to have one win before he goes into his title match.
A title match. Can Brock Lesnar win the WWE title based on the schedule that he works?
Well, no, not with the schedule that he works.
I don't think it can be done.
Well,
because I just don't think he's around enough.
If he'll commit to 2 months or a month and a half.
Yes.
If he'll at least Raws, at least Monday nights, if he'll commit, I think then yes, I think he could.
He could probably, if he could commit to SummerSlam through Survivor Series.
Yeah. And
appear on every week. And he doesn't even have to even be on every. Mm-hmm. He can take 1 week a month off. But he appears consistently. Maybe between SummerSlam and Survivor Series, what do you got?
Don't forget Rock.
You got
Rock
September, October. You got about almost 3 months.
The Rock just did that. The Rock did it. So if The Rock can do it, Brock can do it. Man, that sounded weird. But here's last one before we go. And I kind of like doing this. We should probably do this more often at the tail end of the show. A little back and forths. Rise or fall. Boy, has his. That shot or that shoot. I guess the segment from Raw really was a shoot. I shouldn't have come back. I bet you Batista believes that, and it's unfortunate, but I bet you he does. But rise or fall after WrestleMania. Looking beyond WrestleMania, rise or fall, Nick, Batista. What do they do with Batista after this? Especially if I still felt like it was written into his contract that he would end up winning at Mania, winning the title. I assumed that was the reason why they were sticking to their guns and going with it and everything like that. They've turned him heel, which I don't know that they planned on doing that anytime soon, but there's nothing that they could do. They've already started really bringing it out, allowing Randy Orton to say what's true about him. They just didn't care about you. They didn't like you. And that's why they were booing you. To me, I mean, it really is. They couldn't care less that you were actually going to be returning. They have taken Batista, and again, it all kind of got started because of the Daniel Bryan hoopla, but Nick, they have not done Batista any favors other than turning him heel, which they had no choice. But even since they have, allowing Orton to say those things, I mean, they're not protecting him, it doesn't seem like. So beyond Mania, in your mind, what do they do with Batista?
Well, you keep him a heel, and I think the best thing to do with Batista is to try to ride out. You know, I would say the failure of Batista in hindsight, now looking back on it, is 75% wrong place at the wrong time. The fans did not want him back right now. They want it especially because of the way. And remember, when Batista came out, that return to Raw, they weren't booing him. There were no boos. They embraced his return. But the problem is, it was underwhelming, completely underwhelming, and then he won the Royal Rumble. And everyone said, wait a minute. This is Daniel Bryan's spot, not Batista's, and we're not going to accept Batista. We might accept The Rock because he's The Rock, but Batista's not The Rock, and he's been gone too long. And we're not going to accept him back taking Daniel Bryan's place. So I think it's been 75% wrong place at the wrong time, 25% creative's done nothing.
Well, okay,
with him.
but
they dropped the ball on his return.
Yeah.
He cut one memorable promo since he's come back. Has he had one memorable?
But his back's been up against the wall, though. His back's been, and here's all right. Here's the last thing I'll ask you: if his return, and again, if his return was not spoiled, Nick, by the deal, and then of course WrestleZone and a lot of websites jumped on it. If his Royal Rumble return had not been spoiled, do you feel like things would have gone the way they did? Would fans?
Absolutely.
Would fans have? You do think so?
Absolutely. Because remember, he returned 2 weeks. He returned 2 weeks before the Rumble.
But that's because it was spoiled. That was because it was spoiled. They would have not had him return 2 weeks earlier, come in, and then given away, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble, and pretty much telling everybody that he was going to win. If that did not get spoiled by that venue's website, in my mind, there is absolutely no chance in hell he shows up before the Rumble.
But he still comes back and he still wins the Royal Rumble, and the fans don't get to see Daniel Bryan do what they all wanted to see him do.
Yeah, but see, again, that's the point, though. If that wouldn't have happened, though, I don't know that fans would have been really gearing up for that. They knew Batista was going to go win, so their whole thing then was, well, he shouldn't win it. Daniel Bryan should, hence we've got to see him here. If it doesn't happen, we riot. And that's, like, it started building up. But if you didn't know all those circumstances, if Batista returning didn't happen and he was a surprise entrance, the casual fans would have popped for Batista. There's no doubt. He was a face. He's a big enough star coming back. He would have gotten a good reaction. Would the internet fans have minded as much if Batista returned and it was a huge pop? Again, if it hadn't gotten spoiled beforehand, which gave us the right to the time then to not care as much. I'm just curious to how it would have gone down. Because I know something would have changed had his return not gotten spoiled. I know some things.
It's a very valid point.
I just don't know what.
Absolutely. It's a valid point in terms of, there's no doubt, because everybody wants to see that big surprise entrant into the Royal Rumble. There is no doubt the place would have exploded if Batista made his return in the Royal Rumble. Now, I think WWE's stupid for bringing him back. What the heck? Even if it did leak, you call the venue and say, well, he's not coming that night. All cards are subject to change. I don't know why they felt the need to well, wait a minute. What was that spoiling? That was well after the Rumble, right? that he was being advertised for?
Right.
Yeah, okay. So they decided to bring him back. Right. They decided to bring him back for that. I will say this, though. And I remember I talked to you about this often, because do you remember when this happened? I was in Michigan over the holidays, and I called you and I said, this venue is reporting Batista's coming back. And remember, I told you on the phone, I had talked to a source in WWE just about a day before that said, hey, you want to know something crazy? They're going to start running promos for Batista's return soon. And I said, whoa, that comes out of left field. So, and, you know, I could always have been wrong. That guy could have been wrong. But it does seem like, from what I was told,
they were going to announce him earlier.
They were going to do this anyway. They were going to run these promos anyway for his return. And again, remember, WWE is going to look at it from a business standpoint, which is you got to promote the guy so more people buy the Royal Rumble. You got a guy like Batista who's a big top star, hasn't been around in a while. You have to announce him prior to the Royal Rumble to increase pay-per-view buys. Right. But it's the point is still valid, though. Would the crowd have reacted this way? Well, that's where that other percentage comes in. You know, if whatever you want to call it, 60 to 75% of his failure was because of wrong place, wrong time, well, the rest of it is creative.
No doubt.
I mean, that guy has made an it's like nobody even thought until 5 minutes before he came through the curtain on Raw, oh yeah, Batista's coming back. We better do something with him. His promos have been abysmal, and not all his fault. The content of them have been terrible. You know, what's he talking about? What's he doing?
But it's his job to, I mean, he had the freedom probably to kind of vary his promo a little bit. I mean, it's his job to take what they're wanting, the bullet points, what they want him to get over, and make it stand out. And I don't think it would have mattered what type of content they gave him on, you know, on a piece of paper before he went out and did that promo. I don't think the first promo or any promo really since then he would be able to. He's had about one decent promo that I can remember, and it was a couple weeks ago that I think he did all right on. I mean, I just think he's so rusty, and he was never the greatest promo guy until the tail end of it, right before he left. I love the heel stuff that he did, but we will talk more about this though next week on the show. So remember that. Of course, actually next week also, Nick. I don't know how it's going to. Is that going to affect you? You've got the big New York City Raw viewing party.
I do, but you know, we can always do the show earlier, you know, or we could pre-record, you know.
Okay, well, we can look at that, I guess. But one thing I do want to definitely talk about next week is the internet wrestling community and really how much it affects what WWE does. Is it as powerful as it's ever been? Will it continue to grow? Because everything that in the last few months that's taken place, a lot could be attributed to the internet wrestling community. Again, the Batista leak and all of that being spoiled. There's a lot of things that could be questioned. And then at the end of the day, does WWE really care? So we'll talk about that next week on The Voice of Wrestling. However, for this week, thank you for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it. Of course, every single week, 6:30 Eastern, leading you into Monday Night Raw. It's The Voice of Wrestling, Chris Cash, Nick Paglino. Make sure you check out, if you want one of these sweet, then I put the graphic up, but the hashtag heel shirt plus others, make sure you use the discount code VOW, and you can go to barbershopwindow.com, also ProWrestlingTees.com, and podcasttees.com, which I think is really neat. They've got Jim Ross's exclusive shirts, some really good ones. I've got one of those. I'll eventually sport it on the show. But thanks to barbershopwindow.com for checking it out. By the way, before we let you go, do want a couple of things. Make sure you check out the Mastermind, where I teach you everything that I know about making a living and starting a website, starting a blog or a show in pro wrestling. voiceofwrestling.com/mastermind. Also, we would like to know what you think would be a good shirt for the Voice of Wrestling. We are going to be going through ProWrestlingTees.com or maybe PodcastTees.com, one or the other. and selling our own exclusive shirts, but we'd like some slogans, some logos, the professionally unprofessional, something along those lines. Anything you can think of that you would like to see on a shirt that you might actually support us and buy, we'd like to know. So tweet me your thoughts, or of course you can email me as well. However, guys, enjoy pro wrestling, enjoy WWE Raw tonight. It should be a big one. We're very, very close to WrestleMania. And until next week, for Nick Paglino, I am Chris Cash, signing off. Enjoy wrestling, everybody. See ya.